When you hear the word Pokemon, a lot of things may come to mind. Games, movies, anime, cards. Depending on how old you are or when you got into Pokemon may even craft what images pop into your head. But unless you've been living under a rock for the last decade, there's one word that probably pops into all of our heads when we hear the word Pokemon. Shiny. Get one out the gate.
Yo! Yo, we got it! We got it! Yeah.
That's right, if you haven't noticed, shiny hunting has really blown up over the last 6 or 7 years. Especially since the Nintendo Switch and its platoon of Pokemon games have come out. I started playing Pokemon way back when Red and Blue was new. But it was when Yellow and the first movie came out that I really dove in head first, and I've been a huge fan ever since. I'm sure most, if not all of you watching right now, are well aware that shinies were introduced in Gen 2 with Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal. If I'm being honest, I didn't even know what a shiny was until Pokemon Sword and Shield. Yeah, I remember the Lake of Rage Gyarados, and yeah, I just thought it was a unique one-off red Gyarados. But if there's one thing I have learned in my time of shiny hunting, it's that not all hunts are created equal. And in this video, I want to take a look over what I believe to be the 5 most difficult shiny hunts that the series has to offer. Before we hop into that though, we need to lay some groundwork. What criteria must the hunt meet in order to be on this list? It has to still be obtainable to this day on a retail copy of the game. So none that require hacking or modifying a game or console to get the shiny. This also excludes all timed event and mystery gift shinies. This list will not include methods using RNG manipulation or third-party assist tools to acquire the shiny either. Nope, just good old-fashioned insanity levels of patience and hours to get the shiny Pokemon in a 100% legit in-game way. And lastly, the difficulty of the hunt is determined by multiple factors. How hard the hunt is, like if it requires defeating really tough trainers or Pokemon to complete, the time, effort, and setting up required for the hunt, and the odds of encountering the shiny. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the top 5 most difficult shiny hunts in all of Pokemon. Number 5. The first one on our list is from Pokemon Sword and Shield on the Nintendo Switch. Sword and Shield was Pokemon's leap from Gen 7 to Gen 8, and as every generational leap does, it brought with it a slew of new Pokemon, in turn bringing in a ton of new hunts. When it comes to difficult hunts, you have some usual suspects. The fossil restores, the 1%ers that only spawn in during certain times of day or weather. But it is not every generation you get a shiny hunt quite as difficult as attempting a shiny antique Sinistea, the little ghost-possessed teacup. And in a nod to Realty and other dinnerware sets, you have the real deal and knockoffs, with knockoffs being more common. Sinistea and its evolution Polteageist have a phony and antique versions, or commonly referred to from fans as fake and authentic. Your base odds for a shiny in Sword and Shield in the wild are 1 out of 4,096, and with the shiny charm, these odds are increased to 1 out of 1,365. This applies to Sinistea as well. However, things start to get a little crazy when you introduce the odds of one of these little pink teacups being antique. Alright, brace yourself. The odds of one of these shiny Sinesteas being antique is 1 out of 409,600 without the shiny charm. And things don't get much better with the shiny charm. Your odds then are 1 out of 136,567. Yeah. In the base game, Sinistea can only spawn in Glimwood, with a 10% spawn rate of a phony spawning in and a 1% chance of authentic spawning, making a hunt here even more difficult by the fact that there is no overworld spawn visual of the Pokemon, only grass moving to let you know a Pokemon is there to be encountered. A quick note to make is that antique Sinistea or Polteageist cannot be obtained through hatching or raids. You can also hunt an antique through curry hunting, a method that involves camping and luring a Pokemon in by making specific curries. I'll drop a link in the description to a good video going over curry hunting, but we'll be sticking to just hunting in the wild, the old-fashioned way. In 2020, with the release of the Crown Tundra DLC, a slightly easier way to hunt antique shiny Sinistea emerged. And this is the method we'll be covering. In the Crown Tundra, there's a location called the Old Cemetery where Sinistea can spawn visually in the overworld. The antique to phony rate is actually worse here, being 20% phony to 1% antique, but using the T-smashing method, we can actually speed this hunt up slightly. Absol Blogs Pokemon actually has a great video going in depth on this method. I'll make sure to drop the link in the description. I'll keep it short and sweet here for time's sake. Essentially, save in front of a Sinistea when you find one, battle and capture the Pokemon, and afterwards check to see if it's antique or phony. You can do this by seeing if it's compatible with a chipped pot or a cracked pot. Chipped pot can only evolve an antique, and the cracked pot only evolves a phony. If it's antique, it will also have this blue stamp on the bottom, and if it's phony, it will not be present. If the one you found is phony,
Hey, this guy's a great big phone!
Find another Sinistea, save in front of it, and repeat the battle, catch, and check process. Do this until you find an antique. Once you have, you'll want to reset your game, and since the stats, including if it's authentic or not, are set in stone, once you see the Pokemon in the overworld, you can finally start the T-smashing method. When you KO a Pokemon in Sword and Shield, it increases the chances of that same species spawning in again for a short time. This also applies to Antique Sinistea, raising your odds of encountering another immediately after from 1% to 50%, a pretty substantial increase. If you can manage to only encounter Sinistea after this, then roughly every 5 out of 6 Sinistea will be antique. Do this until you encounter a different Pokemon, then reset your game since the chain has been broken. Go ahead and load back into that first antique Sinistea you encountered, and repeat this process until you've got your shiny antique Sinistea. This method will speed things up, but this hunt is still likely to be long and treacherous, considering the amount of resets you'll do and the incredibly unlikely odds stacked against you. You are almost certainly going to come across several phony shinies before you get what you're after. That's why this hunt definitely deserved a spot on this list, but buckle up. The hunts only get harder from here.
It's authentic! It's authentic! Oh my gosh, yes! Yes! Oh my god!
Coming in at number 4 on the list is Shiny Wishmaker Jirachi from the Pokemon Colosseum bonus disc. So there's a few things you're going to need in order to make this hunt happen. A GameCube, a Game Boy Advance, either the SP or original model, a GBA to GameCube link cable, a copy of Ruby or Sapphire, and last but not least, the Pokemon Colosseum bonus disc. It's important to note that you do not need the Pokemon Colosseum game disc, only the bonus disc. Before you get too excited though, you should know this. Moving along? Alright, to do this hunt, you're first going to need to have played Ruby or Sapphire up to the point where you get the Pokédex from Professor Birch. Keep in mind, this only works with Ruby and Sapphire. Jirachi cannot be transferred to Emerald. After doing so, go ahead and save the game, turn it off, and now place the Colosseum bonus disc into the GameCube and turn the GameCube on. From here, you'll be greeted by a menu with 3 options to select. A trailer for the Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker movie, a preview of the Pokemon Colosseum game, and the only option any of us here care about, the Jirachi special gift. We're going to select this option, and the screen is going to give you a visual walkthrough of the steps of connecting the GBA to the GameCube, just in case there was any confusion about this. Inserting Ruby and Sapphire into your Game Boy Advance. After this, the bonus disc will then prompt you to turn on the GBA, and a cutscene will begin showing Jirachi being transferred to your game. This entire process, including the bonus disc menu and then transferring Jirachi over, only takes about 3 to 4 minutes. After it's been transferred, you'll then be instructed to turn off the Game Boy Advance, and once you've unplugged your GBA and turned the game back on, just check your party, take a look at Jirachi's summary to see if it's shiny. Easy enough, right? So that's it? We're done? Oh, you don't even, oh no, you thought, no, No, we're not done here. Because unless the shiny gods are smiling down on you in a way that has never been seen before, you are not getting that shiny Wishmaker Jirachi on your first try. The odds for this shiny, while slightly better than the base odds of 1 out of 8,192, are still an astounding 1 out of 7,281. And in order to repeat this process, you have to delete your save file on Ruby or Sapphire, create a new one, and play back up to the point where you receive the Pokédex from Professor Birch. Save, then turn the game off, and repeat the process of transferring the bonus disc to check if the next Jirachi is shiny. It is required that you repeat this process over and over until you get the shiny Jirachi, since only one Jirachi can be transferred per save file. Considering the 1 out of 7,281 odds, the 10 to 12 minutes to get the Pokédex, plus the 3 to 4 minutes to transfer the Jirachi and check if it's shiny, this hunt is only for those with the patience of a monk. There is a way to speed this hunt up with something called the corruption method, but this involves glitching or corrupting your save file, so I won't be going over it here, but I will drop a link in the description for those interested.
Shiny Jirachi, no way! Oh my god! Dude, that was like 20 minutes of hunting today.
Number 3 here is Shiny Manaphy from Pokemon Ranger. Oh yeah, I'm sure some of you have heard of this one. This hunt here has some notoriety behind it. Not the second or third Pokemon Ranger games, but the first game specifically. First off, let's go over some requirements for this hunt. Obviously, Pokemon Ranger is required. You're also going to need 2 other Gen 4 games, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Diamond Pearl, or Platinum. Here though, I recommend Diamond Pearl or Platinum since you've reached a point where you can trade faster in these games compared to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You're also going to need 2 DS consoles. So that can be DS, DS Lite, DSi, 3DS, or 2DS. You're just going to need 2 of those consoles. It is also very important that I mention that only 1 Manaphy egg can be acquired per Pokemon Ranger cartridge. Yes, only 1 per cartridge. No matter how many times you delete your save file, this cannot be changed. For most that have any interest in doing this hunt the 100% legitimate way, you're most likely going to have to turn to local game stores or eBay. When doing so, there is a way to know 100% if the egg is still on the Pokemon Ranger copy you're looking at buying. Have the seller show you the main menu. If RangerNet isn't on the menu, the egg is guaranteed to still be on the cart. If RangerNet is on the menu, it doesn't mean the egg isn't still on the cart, it just means it's likely not. In the case that the RangerNet is on the menu, if the seller doesn't mind going one step further and opening RangerNet, have them check for the mission, Recover the Precious Egg. If the mission is present, go ahead and consider it gone, as this all but ensures the egg is no longer on that cartridge. As obvious as it may be, I have to state that since only 1 egg can be acquired per copy of Pokemon Ranger, unless you don't mind this hunt going on for a lifetime, you're probably going to want to buy more than 1 copy of Pokemon Ranger. Now that you have this information, let's get into the hunt itself and why you need 2 other Gen 4 games and 2 DS consoles. Alright, so to receive the Manaphy egg, you must first beat the main story of Pokemon Ranger, which is roughly 10 hours. After doing so, you will unlock RangerNet. From the RangerNet menu, you'll need to type in a code. Hold R, X, and left to unlock the Enter the Password screen. The code required for this specific mission can be found online from either Cerebi or Bulbapedia. Links to both will be in the description. So now that you have the mission, the hunt begins. Play your 2 copies of Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum up to the point where you receive the Pokédex and can trade. Make sure you have at least 2 Pokemon in your party. This is required to trade in Gen 4. Now the real hunt begins. Trade your Manaphy egg or eggs to one of your copies of your Gen 4 games. The first game you trade your Manaphy egg to, it's going to be shiny locked, and I'll give a brief explanation. This is because its personality value will be locked in place after that initial trade, making sure that it does not match your trainer ID or secret ID. This is why more trades are required to different save files to give the Manaphy a chance for the trainer ID, secret ID, and its personality value to match, in turn making it a shiny. During my research for this hunt, I could not find a definitive answer on if we need to go ahead and hatch the Manaphy when we put it into our first game, or if we can just move it straight over to our second copy, since that's when it's no longer shiny locked. So the call is yours on that one. But once you have transferred your Manaphy egg or eggs over to your second copy, you want to save first and foremost before you do anything else. Now we can begin walking around to hatch them. While doing this, go back over to game 1 and erase your save file and start a new profile. And play back up to the point where you can trade. Yeah, I already warned you, these hunts only get more difficult from here, and it's too late to turn back now. After hatching in game 2, check the summary screen to see if you got your shiny, since the Manaphy will never appear shiny during the hatching animation. If you did not get your shiny, which you likely didn't on the first try considering the 1 out of 8,192 odds, go ahead and reset the game so the Manaphy is back in its egg state, and send it back over to the game 1 copy. Save and repeat this entire hatching process, as well as deleting your save file on the other game, starting a new profile, and getting back to the point where you can trade. With roughly a 30-minute playtime, having to do this on 2 copies, 1 out of 8,192 odds, having to get a copy of Ranger with the egg still intact, and play through the 10-hour game before even being able to access the Manaphy egg, the shiny shenanigans going on here are really starting to get out of hand. Hard to believe we still have 2 more to go.
Shiny Manaphy! Oh my god! No way!
Earlier, we covered the shiny Jirachi from the Pokemon Colosseum bonus disc. Well, for number 2 on this list, we're gonna go back, but this time to the actual game itself. Pokemon Colosseum launched in March of 2004 for the Nintendo GameCube, and it was the first full-fledged Pokemon game released on a home console that actually played like a normal Pokemon game. Fortunately for fans, you can indeed shiny hunt in this game. Unfortunately for fans, it's pretty complicated, and none more so than Evice's Shadow Tyranitar. Evice? Evice? Evis? I'm not really sure. We're just gonna call him Evice. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a few steps back and look over how shiny hunting works in Pokemon Colosseum. In Colosseum, only Shadow Pokemon can be shiny. And with this being Gen 3, the odds are 1 out of 8,192, with no way to improve those odds. Sounds like normal Gen 3 shiny hunting, right? Except Colosseum takes it a step further, and this is where it gets complicated and has caused a lot of confusion over the years regarding shiny hunting in this game. We've already established that only Shadow Pokemon can be shiny hunted here. Let me break this down a little further though. In order to shiny hunt Shadow Pokemon, it has to be during the first battle with that Shadow Pokemon. The reason being is that when you encounter any Shadow Pokemon in Colosseum, their stats are locked in for good. This includes whether the Pokemon is shiny or not. You can rebattle most Shadow Pokemon in this game, but their stats and shiny status will forever remain what they were from the very first time they were thrown into battle against you. Hope you're following along, because this is where it really starts to get convoluted. The first time you battle a Shadow Pokemon, it will never appear shiny in battle for the opposing trainer. But it can become shiny when caught by you. However, if it's not shiny after your initial battle with it, no matter how many rebattles you have, it will never become shiny. Except it can? Wait, what? Just not for you. During rebattles, it can appear shiny for the opposing trainer. But as stated previously, its stats are locked in from that first battle, so you can catch this fake shiny all you want, but it will never actually be shiny. I know. It's confusing and unnecessary, but so are most things in life, and we do them anyways. So the only way to shiny hunt in Pokemon Colosseum is to save before you face the Shadow Pokemon you're looking to hunt, battle it, catch it, and check to see if it's shiny. If not, reset the console, load your save back up, and battle it, catch it, and check again. This isn't considered a rebattle because you're technically battling it for the first time over and over again since your game is being reset. A rebattle is exactly what the name says. You've battled it before, and now you're back for seconds. That was a long introduction for what is our second hardest hunt on this list, but it was necessary since most people aren't aware of the shiny hunting mechanics in this game. Now let's dive into the hunt itself, Evice's Shadow Tyranitar. Spoiler alert, Evice is the final boss battle of Pokemon Colosseum and is considered one of the hardest battles in the entire series. His team is stacked. Before you even get to face off with Evice, you'll have to reach near the end of the game, about 15 to 20 hours give or take depending on how casually you play through. After you've reached the point where you battle and defeat Gonzap, it is incredibly important that you save the game before getting into the elevator here to go up and face the 4 or 5 trainers leading up to Evice. Now this is one of the most important steps in this entire hunt. Once you've completed these battles and are about to face Evice, remember this, you must lose to Evice before he throws out his Shadow Tyranitar, which is his final Pokemon. This is so that you can save the game and not have to rebattle the opponents leading up to Evice again, and only him every time you reset. Since you lost prior to the Tyranitar being thrown out, its stats and shininess have not been determined. This allows the player to reset this battle over and over with a chance to get the shiny. Oh, and did I mention you can catch the other trainer's Pokemon in this game during battle and then throw it out and use it against them? Well, you can. And this is a way to know if it's shiny or not before the battle is even over. 1 out of 8,192 odds, 10 to 20 plus hours of gameplay before you even get the chance to hunt the Tyranitar, an intentional loss before the Pokemon is thrown out to save it and cut the reset time down to 8 to 10 minutes, and having to do an incredibly tough battle each time. Yeah, it has to be this high up on the list. And I think you can see why.
Oh, shiny Tyranitar! Shiny Tyranitar! Oh my god! Oh my god! We got it! We got it! Oh my god!
Alright, here we are. Number 1 on the list. Strap in because it's time to unleash the madness that I believe is the most difficult shiny hunt in all of Pokemon. It's kind of hard to believe it took until the Nintendo Switch for us to get another full RPG Pokemon game, because the GameCube was hit with a double dose of them. Only a year and a half after Pokemon Colosseum, fans would see a direct sequel under the title Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Aside from having incredible box art, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, like Colosseum, would take place in the Ore region, and also players could shiny hunt in. Except this time around, Shadow Pokemon are shiny locked, but others aren't, allowing us to shiny hunt Pokemon from the Battle Simulator, Gift Pokemon, and in-game trades, and Pokemon encountered at the Pokespot. The odds here are a 1 out of 8,192, so basic Gen 3 shiny odds. And the nice thing here is there are no odd, confusing aspects like it being shiny during battle but not once caught, unlike Colosseum. But trust me, there's a reason it sits at number 1. This one's more about the sheer grind and hours that go into the hunt. We're looking at the Mount Battle Johto starters. Mount Battle is, as the name suggests, quite literally a mountain that you climb, battling 99 trainers until you've reached the peak to face the Mount Battle Master, Batless, or Battles. I'm not really sure how they want us to pronounce that, but we'll call it Batless. Mount Battle can technically be reached prior to finishing the game, but most players will be far too underleveled until post-game to take this on, as the 100th opponent of Mount Battle has a team of really good Pokemon that are all level 70. Taking this into consideration, players will have to put in about 30 hours or so to attempt this hunt. At the time of recording this, I haven't personally beat the game myself. This is just an average of the hours I've found during my research, with some users claiming 20 plus hours and others saying 40 plus. When you have reached the point to where you feel confident in taking on Mount Battle, there is something very important to remember. After defeating all 100 trainers, Batless will only offer one of the 3 Johto starters, not all 3 at once. And he will also only do so if you do not change your Pokemon in your party at any point during the entirety of Mount Battle. For all 100 trainers, you must keep the same party the entire time. Otherwise, you will not get the choice of a Johto starter at the end. Let's do a quick recap. Must play about 30 hours or so to even have a real chance at this hunt. Mount Battle itself is 100 trainers, and in total takes about 3.5 to 4 hours to reach the top. The good news is that once you reach the top, you can save before battling, and this game does have a button combination to reset, so you don't have to stand by your GameCube to reset like in Colosseum. Taking all of this into account, this shiny hunt is only for the most dedicated of hunters and deprived of sanity. And as mentioned, this is just for a shot at one shiny Johto starter. If you want a shiny of each of the other starters, you'll have to replay the entire 3 to 4 hours of Mount Battle and its 99 trainers, repeat the entire process of saving in front of Batless, battling him, picking a starter, and resetting if it's not shiny for each of the starters. For those wanting all 3 shiny starters and their evolutions, I would consider you...
Stop it. Get some help.
Jokes aside, I think it's pretty easy to see why the Mount Battle shiny Johto starters sit atop this list of the 5 most difficult shiny hunts in all of Pokemon. Alright, well that is going to do it for this video. What do you all think of these hunts, and would you or have you completed any of them? Do you agree with my list or disagree entirely and feel the raging need to educate me on why I'm wrong? Make sure to let me know the answers to all of this down in the comments below. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for future content. And until next time, Indominus out.